Hello everyone, my name is Artem Medvedev and you're listening to News and Views on Leduc Radio. Among the news this week is the confirmation of existence of torture and criminal interrogation techniques in Afghanistan, further proof that the conservative government is cutting social services on a haphazard basis, and development of labor minister raids, anti-labor discourse and actions. But before I go into details on all of these, I'd like to thank everyone that attended the annual general meeting for the Edmonton Leduc NDP, and I'd like to encourage anyone who was not at the meeting but would like to participate in the work of Social Democrats in our riding to get in touch with me as soon as you can, because there is a lot of work to be done and we'll be glad to have you on our team. The news coming from the United Nations this week is very discouraging. A special UN report has confirmed that the Afghani authorities are resorting to torture and criminal interrogation techniques, and while the report does not mention it directly, it appears that the question of whether the Canadian forces have been transferring people to a government that tortures people is now closed. And so all of the conservative cover-up techniques in which they have been trying successfully to not reveal the truth about possible torture in Afghanistan, thankfully do not apply to the work of the United Nations. Therefore, the Canadian public now gets this information from a different organization, not from their own government. Given the fact that the Conservatives and the Liberals have extended Canada's mission in Afghanistan, the question of what kind of government we are supporting in that country is still very urgent. A few years ago, it was confirmed that the Afghanistan government is one of the most corrupt governments in the world, and now with this confirmation of the existence of torture as one of the techniques employed by the officials in that government, the question of what we are doing in Afghanistan suddenly presents itself in a new light. And now if we turn back to the Canadian government, facts have been revealed that Tony Clement, a person in the Conservative government responsible for cutting down social programs prior to next budget being announced, is giving special motivation to the heads of government departments in the form of promises of greater bonuses. Apparently, the more people someone fires from social service and the more programs someone closes, no matter how much the country may need those programs, the greater the bonus for that person will be in the end. When asked by the media to explain his actions, Tony Clement said that he finds these bonuses a great motivational technique. At this point, it is not clear whether the millions of dollars that are going to be cut from social programs are the same millions that are going to be given in special bonuses to the heads of government departments, and probably including Tony Clement himself. Tony Clement finds himself in good company of Labour Minister Raitt. Minister Raitt said this week that because of the second planned strike by Air Canada flight attendants, the Conservative government is going to consider changes to the labour code that would make such strikes impossible. There are few countries in the world today that consider themselves democratic and at the same time prohibit strikes under some circumstances. Labor rights and labor legislation is such a complex mechanism that tampering with it may cause irreversible damage for decades to come. Importantly, the new attack on labor by the Harper Conservatives coincides with the growth of the Occupy Together movement. The Occupy Edmonton action is going to take place this weekend downtown Edmonton. In terms of where taxpayer dollars are going in this country, it's important to note that the Conservative government has announced new plans for commemoration of the 1812 anniversary next year. Apparently, this celebration should be at the top of everyone's minds and not labor rights and not environment and not social programs. While outrageous amounts of money are also now given to the new tough on crime legislation, the Parliamentary Budget Officer has confirmed last week that there is little substantiation for any of the figures in the forecasts made by the government on how much this crime legislation is actually going to cost Canadians. And this is a brief rundown of news for this week. If you have any comments or suggestions, please get back to me. I always like to communicate with listeners. My name is Artem Medvedev. Thank you for listening. This was News and Views on Leduc Radio.